Call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first thing we have is assignment for request for council action. For the Finance Committee, we have 24-112, amend ordinance 170-23 bids for Spring Grove Cemetery road improvements. 24-113, cooperative purchase fitness equipment MCRC. 24-114, budget amendments. 24-115, expenditure Central Square annual CAD RMS system for the police. 24-116, amend ordinance 4724 Prospect Street Bridge replacement. 24-117, modify 2001 Medina Area Transportation Task Force report. 24-118, a then and now for Winthrop Construction emergency railroad repairs. 24-119, resolution of necessity for EMS levy. 24-120, amend salaries and benefits code new part-time parking violations hearing examiner. So the first item we have is 24-112, amend ordinance 170-23 bids for Spring Grove Cemetery road improvements. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request here is to increase the authorized amount for competitive bidding for the roadway construction of sections 19 and 20 at Spring Grove. Prior to going out to bid, we had Wirtz Geotechnical do testing and discovered very poor soils at Spring Grove in this area. So we had to modify the plans, which resulted in increased cost. But we're hoping it comes in around $110,000, so about a $50,000 increase.
And I see this coming from Carry Forward. You have enough to cover that?
Glad you pointed that out. It's actually not coming from Carry Forward. That was an error on my part.
Well, it says right there, Carry Forward.
We definitely don't have that in Carry Forward. We did an appropriation through finance for the project to begin with, so we'll have to do that again. But this is to increase the authorized amount so we can go out to bid.
I guess we went through, where's the money coming from then? Keith? He's looking at you.
I didn't have that question. I mean, we could do this out of, we have funds that could be appropriated, or we could take it from capital, or, I mean, there's multiple options.
Well, how much funds do you have in Carry Forward to cover it, did you say?
I don't have any for this road project. The previous purchase order in the amount of $60,000 came out of 001021054411. So we made an appropriation into the cemetery account specific for this project.
I mean, that's a general fund account. We have the money, but it's not appropriated.
Right. No, I mean, I guess that's the question is, I mean, the Friends of the Cemetery are involved in this one.
They are not involved in this one. I did ask for consideration for the project. They also are funding the roof replacement at the mausoleum in excess of $150,000.
No, that was a 100-year roof. That was only like 10 years, 20 years ago. If I remember correctly.
We're past that.
Yeah, they denied funding this project and felt that it was a city responsibility because we need the road so that we can continue to sell plots in that section. Denny's been part of these conversations at the Cemetery Commission. We are essentially almost at a standstill with future selling additional plots because we don't have access to the center of the roadway or the center of the section.
I think we took it from 108. Is that where we took it from?
No.
Patrick says he'd like to. No, he can't use
I
108?
guess I'm not sure if 108's eligible for this.
I don't, it's a street. I mean, we do street, but it's not, that wasn't set up to do streets in the cemetery. I don't know if it's probably eligible. I don't know. It's not a dedicated street.
Well, if it's eligible, I'd rather use 108 funds. I mean, because that, makes the most sense, but that's for Mr. Huber to agree or disagree with.
It is city-owned property and a road, so.
Yeah,
Right.
that's, I mean,
Since we have to come back to this in a couple weeks, we can get that sorted out with finance and make a
Alright.
recommendation.
so we don't need to vote on anything today. We just need to figure out, you're going to go out to bid to see what the number's going to be, because we don't even know what the number is yet.
Now, we do a best bidder PO for the amount of the estimate, and typically we wait until that ordinance is effective before we award any bids. Right, Pat?
Yeah, typically, we always have the money encumbered to match our estimate. I don't know if we
Well,
want to go out to bid.
Well, we can approve this and then we'll just wait till, because council's not for 2 weeks, you can have the answer in 2 weeks, right?
As far as funding,
Yeah.
the account, I would think so.
Yeah.
So why don't we approve subject to what account it will come from, so we know, and I got 2 weeks to figure that out. Mayor?
Just one other thing for consideration. I'm aware of a estate that's working its way through the probate system here locally, and the deceased left a certain percentage of money to her daughter. These numbers may not be right because I just read it and didn't retain it, but I think 60% to the daughter, 20% to hospice, and 20% to the city for the cemetery use. So I did talk to Keith. There's a potential, I have no idea what those numbers equate to, but there is a potential that if there's enough with that we could do a note or advance and then repay ourselves once this works its way through the probate system.
Yeah, I think we could, figure that out in the next 2 weeks. If we could use 108, that would be the ideal option, since it is a road. If not, then we could. Well, I know, but you could always put a note out. I guess you could always put, to get paid back, so, does that make sense?
So we're basically in support.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the funding.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll find that out in 2 weeks then.
Right.
And Keith, you already have a PO for 60,000 in place,
Right, we already did that when we did this, so we're just adding the 50.
50,000, okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve subject to final allocation to which account for the other 50,000.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24-113, Cooperative Purchase Fitness Equipment, MCRC. Jansen, again.
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to purchase approximately $35,000 in fitness equipment as part of our replacement at the rec center. 2 of these items are under the National Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. There are 2 additional treadmills with consoles to bring our treadmill count up to 12. We did an equipment survey and discovered that our treadmills are highly popular and getting used a lot. So with some of the space-saving measures that we've implemented with the fitness room addition, we're looking to expand with 2 additional treadmills, as well as a new step recumbent cross trainer that's used widely by seniors and Cleveland Clinic for therapy, as well as some additional pieces of equipment. We are looking to also apply 3 trade-ins of ARC trainers that were originally purchased, 2 of them in 2012 and 1 in 2014. They've served the rec center well, and we were offered $500 for each one of those machines, which is much more than we were offered a few years ago for trade-ins. So we're recommending this purchase using $35,000 of carry forward.
Questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 22-259, room tax for hotels, motels, a discussion item for Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, we are in the process of getting a new hotel put in town, and in talking with some of the council members of other cities, I've learned that they charge a 3% income tax lodging fee, or not income tax, but like a lodging fee or room tax, however you want to phrase it. Did a little bit of research, found out that we are authorized to do this through the Ohio Revised Code, and I think there's an opportunity for us to have another avenue of some revenues. If you look at the spreadsheet that I provided you, it's the first spreadsheet that I gave you was from the numbers that I had 2 years ago. The spreadsheet that is titled Sheet 1, it's sideways on your in your packet. shows the current numbers that they have adjusted the rooms to. There's going to be 77 rooms. They estimate a 68% average occupancy, and their average room rate is going to be $169. So at 3%, we stand to gain as much as just under $97,000 a year with this. I know when everybody travels, they pay a room fee, a local lodging fee, a state lodging fee, a state sales tax. I know there was one hotel we stayed in, it was like a 15% tax on top of the room for everything that people were collecting. So it's not unusual, it's not out of the ordinary. The only way you're going to pay this tax is if you stay at the hotel, one of our hotels in town here. The high-level thought is for the uses of the money. First of all, we can allot a certain portion of it to economic development because people are going to be coming here to do certain things. They'll have a place to stay now. I know some of the benefits, the businesses will benefit from it because they won't have to arrange for their visitors to go all the way out to 18 and back. They'll be able to stay close in town. Our local restaurants will have an opportunity to gain from this because people will be going out, using the local restaurants and things like that. And then another portion of it could go to the general fund. We're going to have, because of the increased traffic, we're going to have Mr. Piccoli is going to have extra things to do with the streets, et cetera, extra police, extra fire. Those are the things that we can use these funds for. And if we can, as far as looking at it, like I said, we had the 3 hotels. We have the Spitzer House B&B, and we can discuss whether we want to chase Airbnbs or not.
Well, that was my question. When you say 3, I mean, we have a couple motels, I guess you'd say, and there's going to be really one hotel in the city.
Right.
And then the next question is, some of those motels serves, disadvantaged people, let's say, and there's, the tax wouldn't really make sense on that. So how do you, I mean, the program would have to try to be, I don't know if you can exclude certain income levels or certain uses or not, or what the purpose is, because I think some of the hotels, there's more than, I think there might be 3. Isn't there one on 42 here? It's a real small one. Is that the one you were thinking about? And there's one on,
The one on North Court, across from the
North Court, right.
across from the
One on
post
Lafayette.
office. One on Lafayette, and then the new hotel that they're building.
And that's
I
it?
don't think there's any. That's it. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, Town
I knew you
Motel.
would know.
Town Motel, Medina Motel, and then the Legacy.
That's it, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think the one on North Court here, I mean, that's more people who really can't afford, and I guess I don't know what the answer is. Do you charge it anyways, or do you?
Well, I've given it that some thought. I'm thinking if somebody goes in there because they're destitute and they need a place to stay now, and the Salvation Army, Red Cross, or somebody like that picks up the tab, they're going to have a voucher. I think with that voucher, we can exclude that, okay? I think that would be the easiest way to do it. If we have some other people who are down on their luck and they need a place to stay for the night, I think we would have to discuss that and set some criteria on how we can.
Well, I guess it all depends on the rates too. I mean, I don't know what the rates are being charged. I don't know if it's a weekly rate or a daily rate, because I think what you're talking about is 3% on a daily rate, which, if it's $100, it's $3. So, do you really want to try to exclude that? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. So that's the one thing we have to talk about. The other thing that you mentioned is the use of the funds, and I think that you're correct. I mean, I think a great use of the funds, at least for the major contributor to it, would be Main Street Medina, right? Because we contribute to Main Street Medina every day, and that would help the downtown. That would be probably a good use of those funds to keep the square and surrounding 9 blocks, let's call it, vibrant as much as possible. And the other ones, the money I would assume you'd want to try to use for things that those other motels would need in the area that may be assisting them also, whether it be road improvements or some other type of improvement that,
Sidewalks,
whatever, yeah.
right,
I don't know.
right. So those are, some of the things that I'd like everybody to think about for when we bring this back up for a vote. Also, if you look at the three city examples of the ordinances that I brought, Brunswick I was gonna say, they have their funds collected by the county auditor through their process. When I spoke with the county auditor and his team, they strongly recommended, because of the small number of hotels we have, we just collect it ourselves. Keith, I'll leave that up to you and the auditor to talk about and talk it over and see which works best.
I'd rather have the auditor do it. But,
So-
I mean, we certainly can. The major question is, I mean, how much you want to allocate to trying to chase down things. And I'm not so much worried about the hotels, it's the issue that John raised of the Airbnbs of, we're not gonna know. And finding that out. And if you want more information on that, I talked with Paul about it already. I talked with the county auditor in Athens County because they're part of an agreement with Airbnb, but she highly recommends that we not do that, because it's not really working out for them. So, because I was thinking that if Airbnb collected it, it would be a lot easier for us than collecting from each individual owner who does it. But they, like I said, they have problems with working with Airbnb on it because they don't get any information.
No, I mean, what do people think, what do you think about that with because there's only three that motels we're talking about. What do you think about the tax, just the tax itself, without the use of the money?
I don't disagree with it. I agree with Paul, and every time I've traveled, I look at my bill and, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm rather conservative, and I find inexpensive places to the chagrin of my children as they were growing up. But
Yeah,
you
what's your problem?
always have those extra charges, if it's a luxury tax or whatever. I don't disagree with collecting it in a small percentage, and if it's 3% on $100, it's $3. It certainly will go to the consumer, if you will. But I also I agree with exempting those two hotels that have people living in them because they don't have another place to go. And even if it's $3 a day, yeah, I really would hate to see them have additional money charged to them when they're already struggling. I don't know how, again, how do you keep track of an Airbnb? How do you keep track of somebody who rents out a room of their house?
I don't think there's going to be a practical way to do that. I mean, with the hotels, it's pretty easy. Okay, we know the hotels that are in town. If we say you've got to have it quarterly or like these other examples, okay, if we don't get one at the end of the quarter, then you go chase that down.
Yeah.
But if you rent out a room in your house, I have no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
So if you pay it, if you don't, as I mentioned, I think the one thing that you could do is, if you had a problem that the police had to respond to, you could just ask them to let us know in finance that, hey, we responded to a disorderly call where the person said they were an Airbnb tenant, and then, okay, we can check, is that owner paying the tax? Or if the owner has a problem with their tenant, well, okay, we can check, did you pay the tax? But unless something like that comes up, to just randomly find it, that would be nearly impossible.
So if I decide to make my house an Airbnb, there isn't a permit that I have to get through the city that qualifies me to have
And
such a
even if we
business?
put in a permit process, I don't know how we'd enforce it. Again, unless you had a problem, unless the police responded, if the police responded to a disorderly there, or if the police responded because you had a problem with your tenant, then okay, the police
Yeah.
could tell us, hey,
Yeah.
she did this and didn't have the permit. But if you just did it and didn't have a problem, how would we know?
Yeah, and I certainly don't agree with throwing good money after bad to chase something that's not material.
Right, because that's the thing. I mean, we could spend a lot of time chasing it and,
Yeah, or not.
So if you look at these ordinances that are attached to this proposal, it speaks to hotel and motel, and there are no exceptions for motels with disadvantaged people. It's either a hotel and motel, and generally, our laws have to apply equally to similarly situated entities. And I think there's a reason why you don't see any exemption for financial issues. So I don't even know if we can carve that exception out of this legislation. Something I haven't researched, I don't know the answer to it, but I know generally how equal protection laws are looked at, and I can see these proposals from Wadsworth, Brunswick, that we have, they don't attempt to try to carve that out. I don't know if you can.
Greg, do you think we could put a limit on the size and say it has to have at least 20 rooms?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer as we see.
I would very much struggle with, I've been to the Town Motel, I've been to Lafayette, or the Medina Motel on Lafayette Road. There is no way those families that are staying there temporarily can afford to have another 3%. Some of them are just getting by, some of it's a church paying for them, sometimes it's school personnel paying for them just to get them somewhere to live until they could figure out something more permanent. I just hate the people that are staying there, they're not here for any other reason usually at those two motels than a short-term financial situation.
To that point, Mr. Huber, could, if, as I said before, if a church or the Red Cross or somebody like that paid for it with a voucher, we could exclude that.
Sometimes it's not a voucher, it's literally the church going over there and writing a check, or it's somebody from
Okay.
up my school district going over and saying, here's my credit card, I'll pay for 5 nights to have this family have somewhere to stay till they can figure something out.
And my wife and I have actually paid for people to stay in the town motel. So,
It happens on a very regular basis with people, with families at the school district.
Well, the other question is, how do you administer this? If you look at, for instance, Brunswick's proposal, hotel or motel means every properly licensed establishment. So the criteria that qualifies for this ordinance to apply is you are a licensed establishment. And so the city established that they're a licensed establishment, the rule applies. If you muddy that up with some differentiation based upon financial criteria, I don't know how you, who's gonna look into that? It's not, doesn't seem practical to me.
Paul, have you discussed with the investors of the new hotel what their thoughts would be along this line?
They would collect it if we imposed it.
The other issue the chief brought up that's a good point is we are moving toward a homeless shelter, so it might alleviate some of the concern.
Well, I think we gotta find the answer out about the, those two hotel motels that are more extended stay, let's call it, for people with financial situations. But I do see the benefit of the larger hotel downtown for the people visiting to use that money to help support the downtown for additional funds because of the use that's going to be occurring there. Now, what's going to be generated by the new hotel going in downtown with the quote-unquote convention center attached is probably more weddings and more people using downtown, which will be more wear and tear on the square, which is fine, but that money I could see being used to help maintain, the Uptown Park, and, doing things, beautify it more because people would come to take pictures and come here to stay, and that's the way you get them to come and stay is you have a place where they want to take pictures and it looks great and you have a higher level of maintenance done and that costs money. So I could see where the extra $90,000 could come in handy for that, especially because, that would be, dollar for dollar used directly to improve the things that the people staying at the hotel most likely would use.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense.
So in keeping with what John's talking about, if you look at Wadsworth's ordinance, they seem to make it only apply to a hotel. Motels are completely left out. Maybe that's an easier way of trying to,
Because I think
address
motels
this.
aren't used for people coming from out of town to stay at. They're, like
At least
Jim
in our
mentioned-
city, they're not.
At least not, right. They're more for people who are having issues, financial issues, that need a place because they don't have anywhere else to go. And the chief's correct, we are gonna have a homeless shelter, but I'm not sure, from that perspective, the family part of it that Jim's talking about, they're not gonna really take advantage of a homeless shelter in that regard. They're gonna wanna keep the family unit together, I would imagine. I don't think the homeless shelter's gonna be like that. It's not gonna, you know.
So isn't the town motel is a motel, and the place on Lafayette is also a motel?
It's called Medina Motel.
If we limited our legislation to strictly a hotel, maybe we leave them completely out of it.
That could work.
That might work. That's an option.
But I would say if, you know, if we approve it, the money would have to be earmarked for those kind of things that, I mean, I think so. I don't know what everything's used for those
I think-
purposes.
I think we do need to use it to maintain what we have, because it will be utilized more.
Directly on the square, because the people going there, that's what they came here to,
Yeah.
that's why they're here. I mean, it includes all the events, right? That's why Main Street should be involved. I mean, the ice festival, not just weddings, but it's all the
Farmers
events that we
markets,
have, people will be using it. So that money should be used for that. To help, you know, keep that going. So I mean, I'm okay with kind of that kind of concept, and what Mr. Huber said, eliminating the motels. I mean, that.
Well, to
that
be
sounds
more
good.
specific, if you read the Wadsworth ordinance, they state that they make their law apply to hotels that have 5 or more rooms. So if we were to determine how many rooms are at the Medina Motel and at the Town Motel, and we set our threshold above that, it seems like we would clearly then not involve them in what Paul's bringing to the table.
That makes sense.
Okay.
That would also get you out of the Airbnb question.
Sure.
Since
True.
that's not gonna be,
Yeah. you won't have
Well,
any-
I don't think, you know, I'm thinking about it, I don't think that's what the goal would be. And I'm just thinking about what the funds would be used for. I mean, the goal is not
To penalize.
to penalize, you know, the goal is to make it better, to attract more people to come. I think that's what and everything, unfortunately, costs money. At least I
Absolutely.
Figured that out. But I mean, I think if everybody agrees with that, maybe we start going down that road.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I'll read all of these ordinances and try to cobble something together, go over with Mr. Huber
Okay.
and see.
Sounds good.
It definitely won't be the next meeting. I'll guarantee that.
No? Oh, okay. No, I
Maybe,
think
maybe by the July meeting, I'll have something here.
I think it's a good idea, and I think it's an idea that, you know, could help the city, especially with people coming into the city, because I think the goal is, we spent so much money trying to improve downtown, we have to keep it up. And long-term, that's gonna be hard. Mayor?
So, Paul, if it's okay with you, we could have the police department get us a count on those 2 that we've talked about, the 2 motels.
Oh, that'll be fine, yes.
Yeah, it's a 2-level, the Medina Motel is the Town Motel is a 2-level. I just can't remember if it's 6 or 7 rooms across. 16 total? Okay, how about the Medina Motel, do you know that? Okay,
I'm gonna bet about 15
so we
or
know it's gotta
16.
be at least, I'm thinking 18 to 20 over there. Because
The Medina?
each doorway is a double room.
Okay,
Okay.
We
All
can
right.
get you those numbers.
Okay.
okay, all
Just
right,
so you
thank
have
you.
it to work with.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
The next item is the municipal court payroll updates. We're gonna table that, since Cindy's unable to make it. So,
unless anybody has any questions about all the information I put in front of you on that.
Nope.
so we'll table that. The next question is 24-114. We have budget amendments. So we have, 24-25, which is miscellaneous. Keith?
There's a number of things here. One of them, we had to close a purchase order, so we lost that PO, those funds, we need to get those back. The fire department had a trailer they sold, so we want to appropriate the money. And then a little change with the parking attendant, and then, one that should have been in carryover.
All right, questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Then we have 24-27, fire department incident response reimbursement.
This is money they received from responding to this incident, so they want to appropriate it since that was already spent responding to the incident.
Okay,
Move to approve?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24-115, Expenditure to Central Square CAD RMS Police Department. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our maintenance contract, yearly maintenance agreement for our CAD RMS system.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24-116, amend ordinance 4724, Prospect Bridge Replacement Project. Patrick?
Thank you. This is about Prospect Street Geotechnical Services. Council had previously approved, I think it was 37,000 and change. We added, we wanted to do the water line. This project is, ODOT's involved, so we had to follow their rules. They were going to replace the water line under the bridge, but they would not replace it between the bridge and the new water line at West Smith. It's about 100 feet. We thought it would be smart while we're doing this to just make that all new water line. So to do that, we have to do a little more geotech work, another, I think it's $3,500.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24-117, modify Medina Area Transportation Task Force 2001 report. Patrick?
Thank you. The county engineer recently reconvened the Medina Area Transportation Task Force. Councilperson Hare and I were both served on that. It came up because there's a proposed project near State Route 3 and 162. Medina County Parks District is involved. In order for the project to proceed, one of the recommendations from that 2001 report was an east-west collector street in that area. That would have to be removed in order to allow this project to go forward. The task force had members from all 4 townships surrounding the city, of course, and the county. And the task force agreed, I think unanimously, to remove those projects from the recommended list from back in 2001. So far, Medina County Commissioners and Montville Township have all passed resolutions. They're asking for the city to pass this resolution as well.
Thank you. Reggie, anything more on that?
No, it was an interesting meeting, obviously from quite a while ago. But, you know, there may be some increased traffic in the city of Medina due to the housing development that they want to put in there. And then there's another residential area that's going to go in there. The park's going to be there. So other than, I think, additional traffic on our streets, in that section by Waterbury and I forget the other name of that road. Not High Point, there's another one.
Oh, yeah, south of there.
Yeah, I don't see it as being anything major. No, not at all.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 24-118, a then and now for Winthrop Construction Emergency Railroad Repairs. Patrick?
Thank you. In the month of April, we had 4 different instances where we had rail break, broken rail. So Winter had to go out on an emergency basis and fix those. 3 of those 4 did exceed $3,000, so they became a then and now.
Is there a reason they're breaking?
You know, typically we only get 2 or 3 a year, so this is unusual. The only thing we can consider, April is the month where Osborne really ratchets up their deliveries, and that coupled with just coming out of spring and the fact that all that rail is at least 120 years old and very brittle, I guess it was the perfect storm. Well, hopefully it doesn't continue.
That's relatively young. So what is this, split rails? Is that what happened? They split because of the weight?
Correct, yeah, they just crack, and the Wheeling and Lake Erie won't cross it when it's cracked.
Of course they won't. They cracked it. Fine. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Do we have the emergency clause on that one?
Yeah, I think the emergency clause is requested, Patrick.
Yes.
I didn't think.
No.
Oh, no, that's the next one, never mind.
Okay, you're ahead of it. 24-119, a resolution of necessity for EMS levy renewal. Keith?
Yes, so there's a process here for these levy renewals. This, I'm requesting that council pass a resolution of necessity. That then goes to the county. What the county provides to us on the basis of that is you already have, because I asked them for a draft. So the second page here is what we're going to get back from them, only it'll be signed. and the date will be right. But this just has the dollar amounts that the levy will collect based on the current situation. It's just a renewal. We did an increase, if you remember, last time. And we did that, it was complicated. We did it as a renewal and an increase because there was a change in the state law, and on the new levies, you don't get as much reimbursement from the state. On the old levies, you do. So by doing a renewal that way, we get to maintain that on the old portion. There's no change, no increase, and then this will come back to you then, once the county sends it back, then we will council will need to pass a resolution to proceed to get that to the Board of Elections to put this on the ballot to renew this. The November of this year is the first time that we are permitted to put this on the ballot. And then I've always asked you to put it on early so that if, for whatever reason, if it were to fail, we'd have more cracks at it, to figure out what we're gonna do to finance our portion of the ambulance. As far as the timing issue, I discussed this with John earlier. I put in a request after this came through to move the budget within the budget process, to move the levy funds to the first group of budgets that we do in the early spring, so that we can do these renewals when we're doing the budget, because you really need to look at the budget, look at the renewal, and do it at the same time, and then still have plenty of time and not be quite as rushed as we are here. And I don't think we're terribly rushed here because the resolution doesn't actually need the emergency clause. We can send it to the county. You already have what they're gonna send back, so then when that comes back, we can pass that and go from there. But any questions on the levy or?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24-120, amend Salaries and Benefits Code, new part-time parking violations hearing examiner. Chief, is this you, or is it Mayor?
So the state law was changed a while back, making the parking violations a civil process. And our Assistant Law Director, Matt Lanier, got into the weeds on this to find out that for the city to actually enforce through driver's license and license plate blocks, a series of things have to happen. One is we have to have a parking violation hearing examiner, which has to be either a retired law enforcement officer or an attorney. And they have to do two things in principle. One is that if parking citations are not paid, they have to review the parking citation and fill out an affidavit that can be filed with the court, one affidavit for each ticket, and then filed with the municipal court to get a judgment to be sent to the BMV to block the renewal of driver's licenses and license plates, to try to compel these people to pay their outstanding tickets. They also changed that you can only go back and look at 12 months. We hadn't been doing this. We weren't aware of all of these details that were ingrained in the law. And so we have unpaid tickets from beyond 12 months that we simply can't do anything with at this point. The person can also request a hearing. That's why it's called a hearing examiner. That person will then hold a civil hearing and determine, after testimony from the person who has issued the parking citation, as well as from either Matt, because it's a civil process, he can introduce the evidence as our Assistant Law Director, or they can request the person that wrote the citation to come into the hearing as well, but they have to tell you that up front. And then there's actually a hearing, and then the hearing officer determines whether to fine for the person contesting the ticket or for the city. So I've reached out to retired Sergeant Ron Ross, and he's agreed to take on this responsibility for the city. When we've used before, somebody's requested a hearing, and we've used an attorney, the attorney generally charges their hourly rate, and in town, that's somewhere in the several $100 an hour areas. Ron Ross has agreed that he would do the job for $50 an hour.
700,
Those attorneys,
Yeah,
I tell you.
that's cheap.
I did not bring up Retzel and Andrew. So anyway, I asked him what he thought of $50 to $75, Ron. He thought even 50 was pretty generous. He's more than willing to do it for that. And what our plan is from this point forward, once we get it all approved through the council, is to have him once a month come in for about an hour, go through the citations that need to be certified and sent to the court. The exception would be, like some of the rest of us, he's looking at going to Florida for a couple months in the wintertime. And Matt said as long as we stay within the 12-month window, if we skip a month or two here or there and then just catch up when he gets back, that's not a problem. The hearing is only set on the hearing officer's schedule. So it's not like the person with the ticket gets to pick when the hearing is. Hearing officer sets it and they either show or they don't show. And then we just follow the law. I did ask Lieutenant Markham, and the city has lost for just under 4,000 unpaid parking tickets, close to $40,000 since 2005. Of current, though, that number is much less, more like just a hair over $3,000 if we looked at what we can actually gather the revenue from in the last 12 months. So I'm trying to stop the bleeding and put this protocol in place so that we can get this in line with what the state law requires. And then just one other brief thing. During his analysis of this, Matt Lanier determined that our handicap violation is lower than what the state law recommends. Ours is recommending a minimum of $150, and the state law is $250 up to $500. Well, we're not allowed to have a law that's less severe than the state, which begged the question of why was this not caught by Walter Drain? Because this change was as far back as 2013. It was in place at $250. And Walter Drain's response was that our penalty section indicated what it was. So they couldn't change the law because the penalty section would be in conflict. I'm thinking, well, if you change the law, change the penalty section. So anyway, I think Kathy's going to talk to Mr. Huber about that. He said we would need to repeal it. I think we could just amend it to meet what the current law is. So we're trying to work our way through these things.
The only question I think you and I spoke about is, if we're gonna have somebody working on this, that you got estimated to be $14,000 a year to do it. The police have enough carry forward to cover it. I don't think that's the issue, but I would think they would want to get reimbursed. So the next question is, should we modify the penalty section that deals with at least recouping some, if not all, of the cost of collection if they don't pay it? Because it's very simple. The fee and fine is not that great for the ticket, but if they intentionally ignore it, I think it should be, if you got to add an extra $100, but I don't know what's excessive. But the cost of collection may be, in other court actions, and Mr. Huber can correct me if I'm wrong, you can get cost of, some collection as part of a restitution of, if somebody doesn't pay, there's a penalty associated with that. And I think that maybe we modify the code to say, look, if you don't pay it, you got so many times, you get hit with whatever it is. If it's $50 an hour he's there, it's at least $50 for his time, or something like that.
Yeah, according to Matt, he did research that after you asked the question and said that if the council includes in the ordinance, that if they request a hearing and it's found against them, then they would be responsible.
Yeah, I mean, they're causing us to hire this person to
Exactly.
do the job, so they should pay for it.
Right, exactly.
Because
Just like court costs are assessed.
Because the parking fee, correct me if I'm wrong, it's only like $10, or what is it? How much? $10.
Yeah,
So, I
10
mean,
and it escalates to
Yes.
20, chief? Okay.
Yeah, but if somebody doesn't pay that, they're not gonna pay it. They don't, I mean, you have to do something if they, and I don't know, I guess the question is, once you provide this and try to seek this person, how do you go after them then? What if they just say, I'm still not gonna pay it? What do you-
Well, once these defaults are found by the court, the BMV is notified, they can block them from renewing their driver's license or license plates. The problem is now the state, through the BMV, has let people renew their licenses for multiple years.
8.
Okay, driver's licenses and license plates, so then we have to put a
Yeah.
tickler in
Right.
through the police department to then, at 11 months, notify them if it's still not taken care of. Now, the state law also permits, if there are 3 outstanding tickets and there's a judgment against the person and the police can locate the vehicle, they have a right to seize the vehicle for the unpaid parking tickets. And that's the way it used to be before they made this whole process, is we would take the highest violators and just go out and pull up and take their car right out of the driveway. And right away, people run into the police station and writing checks. I mean, it was pretty easy to get them cleared up then. But we have, at this point, because of these changes in law, we have to go through all these hoops first to get there.
Well, what about, I know, mainly, I don't know what the percentage is of people who live in the city that get these tickets, or if it's people that are out of town that come and get the tickets. But isn't there a way that we could cross-reference some of the names based upon our water bill rolls and then do it like high grass complaints, where if they don't pay it, it could come a lien? We can do a lien like we do every year or something on their I mean, is there a way to do that, or am I stretching it?
You must be stretching it.
Yeah, we would, I think, out of fairness, we would have to research that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I do not know that that's possible. I think what's possible is what the state law gives you the ability for, or if Mr. Huber determines that our charter gives us the ability to do something over and above, as long as it's not less severe than what the state law allows.
Or if you find a repeat offender that we could do something, boot the cars, I mean, I don't know, I mean, because maybe they're gonna be a repeat offender, and if you wait to the BMV, I think, I was talking to Jim, I think it's 8 years for your driver's license now. They wouldn't care, they'd say, 8 years, I could wait a long time, don't have to worry. And maybe if they're repeat offenders, you got the license plate, and you see the car doing it again, I don't know, maybe we get a boot and just boot it, and that'll get their attention.
While the repeat offender, as I said, once the default is sent to the BMV and they have 3 or more unpaid tickets, we have a right to seize the vehicle if we find
Oh,
it.
okay.
So if we find it to boot it, we'll find it and tow it.
So, yeah, sure, I guess you could.
That gets more costly for
Right.
them as well, because they're responsible for the tow bill.
Right.
So are we still talking about the parking attendant?
Yeah, we're talking about how to, another way to assist in funding it.
Okay.
'Cause I think it's gonna happen, but we gotta change, not only we gotta do the parking attendant, you gotta change the law, as the mayor said, both with the handicap, because it's wrong, and a way to remedy, the fines and penalties associated with, going to a hearing. It all has to be wrapped up into one.
Understood.
I
To
guess it's-
incentivize them not to get parking tickets, huh?
But everybody's okay with the concept, right? Is
Yes.
everybody-
Yeah.
So we just need to figure out the language of the penalty and so we can implement it.
Okay, so for right now, we'll use the $50 that we talked about, just as a number, a placeholder. And then when we come back for further discussion, so I'll work with Matt, if it's okay with Greg, and have him put together some of these things into language as to what needs to be amended and what sections of the code.
Right.
And then we'll bring it back for further discussion.
Yeah, and then we could adopt them all at once and
Yes, sir.
get it going by the fall.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, sounds good.
I can't remember, Mayor, if you mentioned too, you did already take the job description through civil service.
Yeah, that's right. Jim and I were at Civil Service, and they blessed the job description. Mr. Palmquist suggested maybe we not have parking enforcement at all, but ended up voting for it.
You must be the violator.
And he pays his pretty promptly,
Oh.
he assured us. He would be okay in not paying them, but if he didn't get them, but,
Convenience comes at a price, I guess.
right.
That's right.
Thank
All
you.
right, no, that'd be great, okay. Anything else to come before finance before we recess into executive session?
Okay, I'll make a motion to go into executive session to consider the purchase of property for public purposes if premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the public interest, where it's 6:50 PM to include the mayor and the law director.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Motion passed.
We'll be recessing into executive session to discuss land acquisition, reconvening in the finance, adjourning from finance, taking no action of any item discussed in executive session. We're in recess.